good to be back after the long weekend. Hope everybody had a safe and happy Memorial Day weekend. It's Mr. Relevant. I'm Alex Strouf with you from the Gruber Law Offices. One call, that's all studio at the Avenue downtown, Milwaukee. JOSHY DiMaggio is here. Will Sommers is here. We'll get to him in a bit for Will's Wednesday week in review. Hunter Vaughn back at the Everlight Solar Studio in downtown Madison. Sometimes, it's easy for us to pick where to start, right? There's the big story of the day. And we'll get to that with Jaire Alexander and the Green Bay Packers seemingly headed towards a reunion and a solution of sorts, as the Jaire Alexander saga has been quite the roller coaster the last few months. That's the big story, but that's actually not where we're going to start the show today. Sometimes I'm just an idiot, and we need to acknowledge that off the top of the show. So that's what we're going to do today. So yesterday, the cover of College Football 26 was released, and I noticed that no Badgers representation made it on the cover, the deluxe edition cover of College Football 26. 40 to 50 schools were represented in some capacity, whether that's with a player, a coach, a flag, a mascot, whatever. And no Motion W, no Badger, no Bucky the Badger, right? So I posted this video willingly. On the internet yesterday without noticing a certain mistake I made. Take a look and a listen.
You know what I saw today? Saw the new cover, College Football 26, the video game franchise that made a comeback last year. Really cool cover. 40-plus schools represented on the cover. You know who wasn't? The Wisconsin Badgers. No Motion W, no Bucky the Badger, no Luke Fickell, no representation whatsoever. You know who was represented? Toledo. There was a Toledo fan. There was a police officer. Multiple head coaches. No Wisconsin representation. What does that tell you? Rich traditions? They're not respected nationally. This is a team that will be lucky to win 5 games, let alone 6, and become bowl eligible again. The Wisconsin Badgers are not respected. Problem sum.
All right, so it's actually not the fact that problem sum is not a word in the dictionary. That is not what I'm referring to there. Josh DiMaggio joins me now. Josh was nice enough shortly after I posted this video on the internet to point out a major issue with something I said within that video, and that was, Josh?
That the police officer you pointed to was actually a West Point cadet, I believe, one of the people from the Army, a very famous rivalry game. The imagery you see pretty consistently throughout the college football season of them in their regalia, wearing the hat, the coat, all of it, especially when they play that rivalry game, when it's the only game on.
Yeah, the one that everybody on the planet is practically seen, including me, many times.
No, this was just a breathtakingly stupid Alex Strouf moment. One of those moments where they come around probably more often than you'd like, where you say something that makes my just jaw hit the floor. A police officer? In what context did that even make sense?
So let me get to my reasoning, which I sent to you last night via audio message on our text thread with the 4 of us, myself, you, Will, and Hunter. The 4 of us have a group chat for this very program. And that is where you sent the video and said, a police officer? And I responded, a security guard? The hat looks very official. And then it finally clicked. That's a West Point cadet.
The fact that once I corrected you,
I was wrong again.
Yes, you went to the hole again. You said, toss me another. Let me alley-oop it home. And then you threw it off the backboard into midcourt.
Here's the thing that I'm accidentally very good at. I'm very good at doubling down on stupid. Right? Yeah. That's just something it's one of my talents. Unfortunately. It's an unfortunate talent, but it's one of my talents. So here is the audio message I sent to Hunter, Josh, and Will via text message last night after I realized the awful mistake I had made in the video I willingly posted on the internet.
All right, here's my explanation. So I guess why I, in my head, connected the dots that there would be a police officer on the cover of College Football 26 is because the cover is filled with things you see around the game, right? Flags, coaches, players, former players. And I thought mascots. I thought maybe that was them, doing like a, hey, there's security guards so people don't run on the field. I mean, might as well put a beer vendor and an usher on there too in that case. But that's how I got there. I'm just also an idiot. There's that part of it too.
Okay, now I want to take control here for a second.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm going to pull Hunter. I'm going to pull Will. Hunter, did that explanation make it any better for you with how embarrassingly stupid that comment was from him.
No, not at all. It made it worse. Like, you just say I didn't
Will.
recognize him.
Oh. Yep, Will.
Have you ever seen a police officer that looks like that? Also, at college football games, I've worked security at them before.
Have you?
Yes.
Why?
We used to
The
have to do
yellow.
it to fundraise money for our baseball team.
Oh,
We'd
sure.
work security. But yeah, I mean, imagine me. Do I look like a police officer?
No. The sad part is also that we do need to point out here is my father's profession
Yep.
for my entire life, police officer.
Yep.
Yeah.
We also need to point out how close this was to Memorial Day as well. On the heels of a troop respecting day.
Yes, but hold on. Okay, but by no means at any point did I intend any disrespect
Well, no.
here.
I don't think anybody's under any illusion of it. It's just ironic your timing. If you had done this August 15th, it wouldn't be like, well, you moron, but we move on. You just have a knack for doing things as dumb as possible.
So what happened here was, and here's the last thing on this. What I think happened here was, I took one look at the cover. I zoomed in to look for Wisconsin, didn't see Wisconsin, and said, all right, let's hit record. I didn't process what I had seen. I actually was more upset that there was a referee on there in no Wisconsin than there was an Army cadet, what I thought was a police officer, security guard at first glance. Yeah, it was just stupid. And I recognize my mistake. I own that one. I wear that one.
The best part is you admit on the front end you're an idiot, but you still try and wiggle your way out with some justification that falls so short of any reasonable answer.
I didn't say it was a good justification. It's just what I think and how I got there. That's how I think we got
As
there.
with every good self-evaluator, with what happened, what did we learn about our video posting and maybe checking our work?
So I would say I usually do a pretty good job of my research prior to cracking a microphone like this. If we're sitting down for the next hour, I feel like everything we're going to talk about today, I'll be pretty good at. When it comes to social media and instant reaction, I've got to do a better job. Got to breathe for a minute first.
The good thing is, I know everything we do here is recorded, but it often will get lost. When you run the most embarrassing three-cone of all time, when you make a video calling a cadet a police officer, that's the type of stuff that gets you in trouble. We need to maybe, I don't want to say take away some effort from what you're doing in front of a microphone. That's very important. But I think we need to apply the same standards to both.
Can you issue an apology to the West Point cadets?
Please.
My friend was appalled. He called me instantly.
What did he
And
say?
disgusted.
What did he say?
I said, why is Alex Strouf disrespecting the U.S. Army?
Does your
Strouf's
friend
just a
actually
big
exist?
Navy guy. That's all this was.
He does exist, but he didn't call me.
He didn't even see the video, did he?
No, but he does exist.
Okay, he does exist. I'm sorry. It's my bad. It won't happen again. I actually can't say that with confidence. I'm sorry. I am. It's a mess up, you know?
Only an Alex Strouf way. And that's...
It's just a classic dumb brain move.
Yeah.
And that's all it was. It wasn't on purpose. It wasn't meant to be offensive. And here we are. So,
Are
as
we
the
at all
screen says right now,
concerned?
breaking news. Strouf is an idiot. Yeah, breaking news indeed.
Are we all at all concerned that you are fully admitting that this is going to happen again? Like, I feel like there's a certain point where we got to change the workflow process here to keep this from
here's the
happening.
thing. I don't think this exact thing will happen again.
No, you'll just do something incredibly dumb in the future.
Yes, but the good news about this show is we're big on accountability here. And when this happened, I think we never stated it, but I think we all immediately knew this was leading the show.
Well, yeah, that's why I sent it. Say we need to stop what we're doing. This is, as much as we're picking on you, idiots of your ilk come along so few and far between that we really need to capitalize on it. Someone as moronic as you saying that was a police officer, that's a blessing.
So
we're lucky. We're walking a fine line here because we run the risk of getting ourselves in some bad territory. But right now, it's beautiful because we just filled the first 11 minutes of this program because you're dumb.
I like how he admitted he's not done. He already got ahead of the next one. You can't even be mad at him when he does something else.
Yes.
He already admitted it.
Right.
I love that move.
I'm going to do it again.
I might. Look, you guys have worked with me, obviously, in different capacities for several years, especially Hunter and JOSHY. Will, you've worked with me for a couple months now. You'll realize I wear my idiocy on my sleeve, right? I think,
Well, it's because it's pure.
Right.
Because you can't help it.
No. Now,
not a compliment, also.
No, I didn't take it that way. I didn't say thank you. I would say, do I know some things? Yeah. Yeah, I would say I know quite a few things, in fact. But my blind spots are my blind spots, and I'm...
And you have a special way of attacking it with the utmost confidence? And a police officer.
Now, all in all, so this video ended up doing pretty well on TikTok. It's had about 10,000 views, a lot of comments, mostly on the police officer bit. But the ultimate opinion was, this shows you how irrelevant Wisconsin football is in the national eye, right? Because coming off of their first season, not making a bowl appearance in pretty much longer than Will's entire life. What's wrong?
Gabe Neitzel was just on a commercial.
Oh, nice. Shout out to Gabe Neitzel. Okay, good derailment, guys. Now, Will, you're how old? 22?
22.
So, yes, it was the first time in your life that Wisconsin had not made a bowl game last year. They had prior to last season, had the third longest streak in the country of consecutive years making a bowl game. I think Oklahoma's streak may have also been broken last year. I don't know that off the top of my head. Should have done my research on that one, right, JOSHY?
No, let's just go with it.
And my point is ultimately a team that not even, 5-6 years ago was one of the most relevant programs in the country and would have been making legitimate runs at cover athletes, let alone being represented at all on the cover of a game like college football, has fallen to... Oh, well, they're just Boston College. They're just Rutgers. They're just programs that don't really matter anymore. And that's sad. And that's not to say maybe Luke Fickell and company exceed expectations in 2025. It's just as it stands right now from a national perspective, this is how the Badgers are viewed. They are viewed as being so irrelevant to the point that they're not one of 40 to 50 schools featured on the cover of the new video game. They are also being viewed as a team whose over-under win total is whether or not they make a bowl game. 5.5 is what Vegas has the Badgers over-under at this upcoming season, and that's sad because 5.5, winning 6 games and becoming bowl eligible, that wasn't even a thought for 20-plus years. They were winning 7, 8, 9, 10 games every single year without failure. And here we are in 2025, maybe for the second year in a row, under this highly touted head coach who came in to replace Paul Chryst as oh yeah, this is a guy who gets it. He brought a mid-major to a college football playoff when it was only 4 teams. Can you imagine what he's going to do in the Big Ten and 12 teams are making the playoff? Well, he's not even going to make a bowl game one year. And now this year, nationally, it's being viewed as, he might not even win 6 games. It tells you the crisis that Wisconsin football is in. And could you throw excuses at it? Of course you can, right? They're not spending enough money. They haven't had a quarterback. They had to replace their offensive coordinator because that was a bad hire initially. You have a ton of excuses you can throw at it. The matter of the fact is, Wisconsin's no better than Rutgers. They're no better than Maryland. I'd like to say they're no better than Indiana, but frankly, Indiana's good now. You have fallen to the bottom tier of the Big Ten. And that's sad for a team that just 10 plus years ago, not even, right, was legitimately competing for Big Ten championships. It's a sad state of affairs when it comes to the Wisconsin Badgers.
I think your comments in comparison to some of the other bottom-dwelling Big Ten teams is fair and well received. I do think we here, and maybe this is a little pedantic, but you're going to nationally, the Badgers have really never been viewed in the way we view them here. I think we have the Final Fours. We have some plucky underdog teams who then oftentimes got to the Big Ten championship and got their doors blown off by the better teams. And nobody outside of Wisconsin or maybe the Midwest views them as really a big-time player. I don't think this is a specific slight or about the downfall. Those teams, because they had Heisman competitors and guys who consistently carried the ball and were putting up great numbers in terms of individual stats, especially the running backs, I think that was sort of what made them relevant in the college football sphere. I don't think anybody, aside from the one Russell Wilson year, which they were a couple Hail Marys away from, being a real impressive team, I don't think anybody's really thought of them as a real competitor.
I don't know.
You've got the odd Ohio State upsets.
Yep.
You've got the thrown in there, but I don't think people ever, when you talk about national relevancy, we're like, "Ooh, we got to worry about those Badgers."
Yeah, I don't think that's fair. I think there were several years where they were viewed as a top 10 team in the country.
Yeah. And what I'm trying to tell you, and I want it to be clear, is we put value in that. No one else did, because everyone knows what Wisconsin is and has been.
I think the fall off, though, is more the point, regardless of what you're saying.
Yes, I think the being in the Rutgers conversation, bad. Don't want to be there. Below expectations, vastly.
Who's their starting running back this year? Is it Darian Dupree?
Yeah, it'll be Dupree.
Who else is there in that backfield? For a team that was so built on offensive line and running the football, and it seems like that's kind of the style they're going back to this year with the new offensive coordinator and Jeff Grimes. Who else is still there? Is Cade Iacomelli still there?
Yeah, Cade Iacomelli is still there. Part of the issue is like a guy like local kid Jackson Aker from Verona. He's now moved from fullback to running back. I believe they're trying him at tight end because Grimes' offense uses more tight ends. So they've had a little bit of movement. The running back room, I think, will be good. Their issue, they've got a left tackle that they were expecting to have. He's out. But like Riley Molman, who will be their right tackle, he's good. Like first team All Big Ten, one of the best linemen in the conference. I think we're looking back at Badger football through rose-colored glasses. Like
that's what I was trying to say.
This team back in the years, like back when Brad Nortman was playing, if they played an NFL caliber quarterback, the Badgers lost. Kirk Cousins beat them twice. Andy Dalton beat them. Like he handily beat them. As close as that Rose Bowl was, Andy Dalton had their number. Like the second the Badgers actually played other NFL talent, it was all over. The only exception to that was that Ohio State upset. You needed J.J. Watt to be ridiculous and get a great seam for David Gilreath to take it to the house. Like this idea that Badger football has always been because we had those Rose Bowls with Barry Alvarez, like that's not what this has ever been. I had to go back and look at it because I know, a lot of talk has been going on, especially on KBN with Brad talking about how sad things are. Like Brad Nortman was at Wisconsin starting in 2008. Do you know what that team did against a not very difficult schedule? They were awful. They lost at Michigan, a Michigan team that won 3 games. Like they went to overtime against Cal Poly at home. And I know Brad talks about that team as being a team that, like, Bielema really took it to them, and they turned things around then. Yep, they turned things around by losing at Ohio State, losing to a top 15 Iowa team, losing on the road at Northwestern. They were in an overtime win against Fresno State. Like, whoo, they turned it around. Man,
right,
that was great.
But again, we can point out the bad years, right? But there are so many
even
good
their
years
good years,
in between that.
they didn't play
what's
anybody.
The good years?
They played the second they played good teams. They got to a Rose Bowl because Ohio State got tattoos when they weren't supposed to and couldn't go to a bowl game. Like, what are we doing about this past team? Like, they got lucky to get there. And great, they took it to Nebraska then. Awesome. Like, they got lucky. And we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to acknowledge that. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, man, they made a mistake. Shouldn't have gotten rid of Paul Chryst. Oh, man, Jim Leonard, he should be the head coach. Two guys who, by the way, aren't even coordinators anymore. They don't have jobs. And we sit here and act like they should be the guy instead of Luke Fickell. Like, stop it. Badger football got lucky. We were consistently average and then got lucky, and we sit here and act like they were national contenders. They needed a future NFL quarterback to just choose to spend his grad year at Wisconsin for one season, and then, oh, nope, all of a sudden that's the standard. That's what we have to expect. But then the second he played other NFL quarterbacks in Kirk Cousins, he lost. Couldn't keep up with them. God, it's just so ridiculous the way that we suddenly view Badger football because things have gotten tough and Luke Fickell made a bad OC hire. Which I think, by the way, Phil Longo just told Luke Fickell everything Luke Fickell wanted to hear and then got the job. And then the second he got here was like, nah, man, we're running the air raid. We're throwing it 50 times. Like, you said it yourself, Strouf. You were there for Phil Longo's introductory press conference. He gave the media members their phone numbers. You were like, oh, he's all about ball. He's such a great guy. He's going to be a great OC. I love that guy. Dude's just a salesman. And Luke Fickell got sold on it. And that sucks, and that's tough. But he got a chance to now make it up by actually getting an OC that understands what Badger football is. But it's just so ridiculous. The Badger fans, the second things get difficult because they had to make a move because Paul Chryst was running the program into the ground, then, oh, wait, you mean rebuilding a top college football program takes more than 1 year unless you're Kurt Signetti, who can pull the entire James Madison roster up to Bloomington? Like, he's the exception. He's not the rule. This doesn't just happen. Indiana was a flash in the pan. Maybe he builds a consistent program. Great. Awesome. Not a lot of other schools have suddenly done that.
Wow.
He basically said all I wanted to say better. And he had more history because I wasn't planning to have this take. But the more I think about it, the more I agree with him. And I also think people remember the end of the Paul Chryst era a lot better than it actually was.
Because they remember that Orange Bowl and the the turnover chain clip. That's what fans remember. Which, by the way, the Paul Chryst Orange Bowl teams, I need to remind people of this because everyone forgets about it. The guys that were seniors on that team, they were the recruiting class that Gary Anderson brought in. And then fans wanted Gary Anderson out of here, even though the guy brought the defensive scheme that made Badger football defense actually good, and he brought in the true athletes at wide receiver that actually won them a bowl game against a good team instead of crapping the bed against NFL quality quarterbacks like Andy Dalton. But, you know, we want to ignore that fact, too.
I don't even know what to say.
I think he put you in his pocket.
I don't.
You started with disagree with me?
I mean, but he also said, you know, he also acknowledged many things I wasn't going to, right? Like I never advocated for Jim Leonard. I don't think, I think the end of Paul Chryst, no, to your point, Joshie, I don't think we inflate that because it was not pretty, right? His last few years, 4-3 in 2020.
Yeah, I don't think people properly address how bad it was.
4-3 in 2020, but you had the Graham Mertz excitement because he had that great game against Illinois. So you thought, okay, 2021, he's going to be great. And then we had the NIL, and we thought, oh, you know, Graham Mertz, face of NIL. They go 9-4 in 21, and then 7-6 in 22. But he was fired, obviously, in 2022. But prior to that, very solid records. His first year, he's 10-3. His second year, he's 11-3. They won the Cotton Bowl. His 2017 was his best year. That was the Orange Bowl team that Hunter just referred to. They were 13-1, including 9-0 in Big Ten play. Their one loss came in the Big Ten championship against Ohio State. 8-5 in 2018, not a great year, but 10-4 and a loss in the Rose Bowl to Justin Herbert in Oregon in 2019. So some really good seasons. It's a team that's nationally relevant at the very least, right? Top 25 ranking, and a team that ultimately my point here is a team that at least would have had some respect nationally, right? Okay, well, if a few things go their way, if they win a few games, maybe they shouldn't. They could be in the college football playoff conversation. And when we're creating a cover for a video game that represents 50 teams in the country, Wisconsin is no doubt on there. right? So I'm not sitting here and saying, yeah, they were the best team in the country for 20 years. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I am saying is we are now at a point with Wisconsin football where it just doesn't matter. It's no longer, hey, we should get excited because they could make a legitimate bowl game or they could maybe make a run to the college football playoff. That's not even a wish. Our wish now is, well, hopefully they win one of those, many of the games they're not going to, and make a bowl game. That's the sad state of affairs that more I'm referring to than Hunter's fiery rant.
Yeah, I mean, they're like a 30th level team to me. That's rather irrelevant regardless. I also don't... The fact that Luke Fickell took over in an era where like there's a new Big Ten coming, all that stuff involved, I don't know if any coach would look good in the new Big Ten. The Badgers benefited The Badgers benefited from playing a pathetic Big Ten West schedule year in and year out.
Agreed with that.
And then sometimes they got the teams you expect to be perennially good on like a down year. There was the Michigan years, and then they became like an unstoppable force once Jim Harbaugh got his program going. But guess what they did? They stuck with Jim Harbaugh, and they worked through things, and they let him build a program there that then led to a national championship.
By the way, Jim Harbaugh also didn't start to really win significant games until the sign stealing allegedly started. I just want to point that out there too. That rumor, the way that lines up is they had to start cheating to beat Ohio State and win those games. And Curt Cignetti, again, I think he also just got lucky with he had good guys that already had been playing with him that came from James Madison. And Indiana has a good NIL program, and they have a lot of money in that school because of what the history of the basketball program had been, and that money has now moved, and you see what Indiana basketball is. Like,
yeah, I agree with all that, and ultimately you get the litmus test this year, right? Is Wisconsin versus Indiana. I think that game is at Indiana. I don't know the schedule right off the top of my head, but I do know they play this year, and that will be ultimately,
at Indiana,
stack
November
up against
15th.
the Big Ten team that knew it. Thank you. That knew how to build in the Big Ten under a new head coach. And all the texts and comments on YouTube at ESPN Milwaukee, Richard Cranium 007. I shouldn't have said that out loud. In my opinion, Luke Fickell is way overrated. Says the thing I want to say, but I can't say. Ryan on the text line, 800-990-3776, says Fickell isn't the guy to take Wisconsin to the next level. That's what it seems like thus far. Right. And for a guy that was so highly touted and highly sought after, and for him to finally leave Cincinnati after making the college football playoff and picking Wisconsin, that injected some hope and some excitement into this fan base. And that just hasn't been the case.
I think if Fickell doesn't figure this out, I think Badgers fans are in for a reality check.
Will just told me he just finally got what Richard Cranium means. Mm-hmm. Took him like 3 minutes.
Yeah, I mean,
I had to look it up too.
Oh, also, before we move on to Jaire and the Jaire Alexander situation with the Green Bay Packers, which we will do in just a second, we've been talking about implementing this idea going forward. We are officially implementing today. So we're about halfway through the show. During What We Learned, presented by Door County Distillery, Will is going to list off the words that Josh used, and maybe I used. I doubt anything I say will make that list, but could
say maybe Hunter
could will it into existence.
If I get lucky the way the Badgers did in past years.
Oh my goodness, Hunter! Time to let it go, pal.
No, I'm tired of this fan base. It's ridiculous. This is why I cheer for Marquette basketball. It's so bad. Badger fans suck.
Oh, here we go again.
Oh no.
Aren't you a Badger fan?
Yeah, and I don't want to be right now because of the way Badger fans act about this team.
I think we
so
need to change
bad.
subjects.
I did too. Let's move on to the Packers. Big news yesterday coming up from Matt Schneidman of The Athletic is that the Packers have offered a restructured contract to longtime cornerback Jaire Alexander. Talk about a situation that has gone from, oh, he definitely won't be a Packer, to, oh, wait a minute, he's going to be a Packer in the matter of 4 months. What?
You think that's what that report was?
I think it indicates that Jaire has leverage and that they are working towards a solution. And I think they'll ultimately get to one.
Have you heard Jason Wilde talk at all the past 2 days?
I haven't heard him talk today.
Okay. He has what I think is the right idea here. Is the Packers sure offered some sort of reconciliation concert?
And I guarantee it was a big low ball.
Yes. And the Packers, as much as Jaire is now planning to attend the offseason program, despite the Packers not wanting him to, he's not doing that out of the goodness of his heart or to make amends.
No.
He's doing this to put it to the Packers saying, bleeper, get off the pot. Make a decision here. And this, to me, is him trying to urge them to make a decision either way, and I don't think he cares what it is.
I don't know that he does either. So I agree with you. But I think the most likely end point is he's on the Packers. You disagree?
Yeah, wholeheartedly.
You think he's a free agent due to release, I would assume.
Yes. I think the Packers are giving him the, here's what we'll give you. Excuse me. Take it or leave it. Here's how you can get up to your 17 or 16, whatever your contract is.
Incentive-based.
But we're going to give you $6 million. And then you're going to earn every dime past that.
Based on not performance necessarily, but whether or not you are performing, period.
Attendance.
Yes, correct. More so than performance.
Right. Will you be on the field?
It's not X number of interceptions or passes broken
there's
up.
probably like, hey, if you're a Pro Bowler, we'll give you we'll tack on.
Well, that's pretty standard. That's pretty normal.
But it's going to be literally a game-by-game check. Yep. Here's a big amount of money. Yep. For every game you're on the field, because we no longer can trust you to be on the field.
And I think that's the way to go. But if you're Jaire, and this is the point of him having the leverage, is number one, you don't have to sign anything. You're under contract, right? You don't have to renegotiate anything if you don't want to. The Packers just aren't going to let him play on his current deal. But I'm still under the belief at this point, Joshy, and I'm curious on your thoughts because it seems like you're on the opposite side. I have a hard time believing these two can't find common ground.
Oh,
right. I mean, if they're offering him $2 million with $15 million in incentives, then I get why he wouldn't be interested in that. But can they get to a point at $10 million? I if I'm the Packers, I'd do it.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what they're comfortable with because Brian Gutekunst said in plain terms they were trying to trade Jaire Alexander.
Oh, I'm aware.
They made it abundantly clear that they thought Jaire still had value, and then they wanted somebody to take that away from them, and they wanted to be sort of freed of the situation. What it seems like, and what Matt Schneidman's report was, hey, there's something out there, because what happened is the Packers had to come back, tail tucked between their legs, saying this trade offer and this trade situation simply didn't work. No one showed interest, which is, one, a bad sign for Jaire. That nobody across the league looked at him and said, hey, we can talk about a trade because they were allowed the ability to seek a trade. Nobody was interested in doing a trade and then restructuring a contract because those terms are both, when you talk to a team like, hey, would you be interested in trading? They say, yeah. They go, well, what does the contract look like? So Jaire's only leverage in his last move is simply, I'm going to show up and sort of force their hand. He wants a decision made. So what incentive do the Packers have to a guy who's missed 50% of the games of the past 2 seasons to give him any sort of guarantee other than the lowest possible amount? What
incentive do the Packers have?
Right.
Was the question?
Knowing all we know about how they feel about him.
Yeah, but I mean, we've been under the impression pretty much all offseason the coaching staff wants him back. That's not to say Brian Gutekunst wants him back.
Yeah, I mean, what Matt LaFleur and Jeff Hafley think is irrelevant to Goody's decision making.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be.
We fought that fight for many years.
Yes, we have.
I tend to agree with you. But also,
the incentive the Packers have, I mean, it's the obvious incentive. You know this will be my answer, I assume, but that is if he's healthy, and that, of course, is a big if. If he is healthy, hopefully you have an all-pro level or a Pro Bowl caliber cornerback on your roster, and that obviously elevates a room that one could debate is the weakest on the Packers roster right now in cornerbacks. So not only could you use the extra body, you could also use the talent, right? Because Carrington Valentine, who I like, and Nate Hobbs, who seemingly is having a really nice first day of OTAs here that the media are attending, or second day of OTAs, first that the media have been able to watch. Hopefully those guys, and Keyshawn Nixon, of course, hopefully those guys are solid. But you don't really have a top dog in that room. That's why we spent all of free agency wishing for one. That's why we thought they would take one early in the draft, which they ultimately did not. That's what leads me to believe, okay, well, the obvious answer right now would be to figure it out with Jaire. I still hold that hope, and maybe this is just my fandom speaking more than my common sense, but I still hold that hope that Jaire Alexander will be a Packer in 2025 because it seems like the smart decision. And again, we said this last year, and I'm going to say it again this year, but this is a guy who should, and I imagine will, have a giant chip on his shoulder when it comes to 2025. He wants to play. He wants to prove he's still elite. He wants to prove that he is still a really big part of what this defense does. Now, to Joshy's point, the last several seasons, for more or about half of all of those seasons, Jaire hasn't been available to prove any of that. So the incentive the Packers have is knowing it's very, very similar in my mind to the David Bakhtiari situation. And eventually with Bakhtiari, they just got to a point where they cut ties loose, and Bakhtiari has not signed anywhere since. I don't think that would be the case with Jaire. Somebody's going to take a flyer on him in free agency if they can get it at the right price, which is why the only part of the leverage that the Packers have is I think they will pay Jaire more, whether up front or in incentives, than anything he would get on the open market, which would be the reason as to why maybe Jaire should sign the piece of paper that is offered to him. Maybe not the initial one, because it is speculated it was likely a low ball. But all in all, to me, it seems like the smartest decision for both the Packers and Jaire Alexander that he's back in Green Bay in 2025. Will that happen? We'll see. But to me, it just seems like a no-brainer.
Given the conditions and what we know about Jaire, who's skipped out on like massive paydays for coming in the offseason program and missing workouts, to have any sort of to be convinced at all that a incentive-laden contract would get a different Jaire than the one we've seen in the past 2 to 3 seasons, I think is sort of a fool's errand. Mm-hmm. I think, yes, he has the incentive of I need another contract after this one, so it behooves me to play well. I just don't believe nor do I believe the Packers believe, or the front office, that when something's nagging or something goes wrong or he doesn't like his usage, that he's not going to just pack it in and say, screw it. I've already made X amount of millions. This money doesn't matter that much to me. Because what has he done to continue to prove his worth in the NFL?
You're asking me that question?
Right. Well, I'm saying...
I didn't know if that was a...
From the Packers standpoint...
What type of question would you call that? If it's one you don't actually want somebody to answer. Yes, rhetorical.
It was not rhetorical.
Okay.
But from the Packers standpoint, why would I give this guy basically anything guaranteed? If I can save a bunch of money to move on from him with a post-June 1 designation, why would I give this guy any guaranteed? And if he's going to want more guaranteed, that just means he's trying to get the most out of us and probably do the same thing he's done before.
Yeah. No, I think that's ultimately fair. I don't know. I still think there's going to be a couple evolutions of this over the next, what did you say, week or two?
Well,
mandatory minicamps next week?
I would expect Jaire's team to have a response.
You think soon?
Yes.
Jaire Alexander not at the OTAs today, one of 4 players, 2 starters, I guess, if you want to consider Jaire that. Elton Jenkins the other.
I don't know if we can say that in confidence, though, because if you're not on the field, it doesn't mean you're not there.
That's true.
Like,
let me rephrase.
Yeah.
He is not publicly there.
Right. He's not out on the field participating.
Same with Elton Jenkins.
Because that would be foolish for the Packers to allow him on the field to get injured then guarantee all his money.
I had a stupid, speaking of my stupid brain, which we've spent a lot of time on today, I was thinking about this yesterday when the news initially came out, and I thought, and I never actually thought this, but I was thinking,
where are we going? I thought, but I never thought.
I didn't think this was a legitimate thing. I just thought, okay, maybe, oops, dropped a weight on my foot.
Yeah, I mean, he's Jaire.
But with the contract he's currently got, he's clearly got some leverage. I think the Packers have a little bit, but it's certainly more in the camp of Jaire, which makes it interesting.
Well, I mean, the Packers have all the leverage here because they can just designate a post-June 1 cut and save, what is it, like $13 million?
What if it's actually after June 1st? You don't have to designate then, right?
No,
I don't know how that works.
At a certain date, there's a timeline there where it becomes guaranteed.
Where a decision is necessary.
Yeah.
Anyway, more on Jaire, I'm certain, by Friday. I mean, there's going to be more news when it comes to this, especially with I imagine, coaches talking at some point today.
Prior to the Schneidman report, which I believe comes from the Packers side of things, the previous 2 pieces of news we got were Jaire.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were to get into my X-Files conspiracy theory, this is the Packers seeing and hearing the public outcry and wanting Jaire back and trying to do what they did with Aaron Jones or you name the guy. We gave him a contract. The Milwaukee Brewers are pretty good at this one, too. We made an offer.
That's true.
We made an offer, and then you find out the offer is like an insulting lowball offer, and you go, well, yeah, you did, but you didn't.
You did, but you didn't.
Right.
And that's what this ultimately was. I think you're right on.
That's sort of where I think we are right now.
Will there be another offer that's less of that? I don't know. I think it's smart by the Packers to try to make this work.
Let's see. If Carrington Valentine gets hurt, Jaire's back in OTAs or minicamp or...
Yeah, but... I mean, even without the injury, I still think, you look at that depth chart and you go,
I still think it's more likely than not he's cut.
Interesting. Okay. We'll revisit on Friday and see if either of our feelings have changed one way or another. But I think he's ultimately back. Now, I think it takes some time, but I think he is. I just think it's the smart football decision.
I don't think the Packers view him as that much of an asset anymore.
Because of his... lack of availability.
Would be off-field behavior.
Which would be a fair way to view this.
Yeah.
And
I think from a pure cold football, dollars and cents, this is a business, Goody and his team up in the front office have thought for a long time we're better off without this.
Sure. But then you would think a conclusion would have happened sooner.
Yes, but they're also the Packers.
That is the ultimately best point we can end on.
Yeah. They don't do it the way you would think would make sense.
That is correct.
And they're not concerned with our timeline.
No. Lance chimes in ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube. If he's cut, would you want Rasul Douglas back? Would I? Yes. Would the Packers?
No.
No.
Yeah.
I want corner depth. That's why I've been advocating for Jaire most of the offseason.
Kalen King, stud, coming in.
People are high on him, but we'll see.
Yeah, I have no way. No one has any way to know what he is.
No, he's a practice squad 7th round pick last year.
Uh-huh.
Could he evolve into something? Maybe.
Highly touted at one point, which the Packers love. No. If you had 4 or 5 stars, they're going to give you an extra hard look.
All right, let's fly through the rest of the show. It's Wednesday. That means we got some games to play. We start with our bright, shining, part-time producer and friend here on Mr. Irrelevant, who's had a really good hat game recently. Good White Sox hat on today.
Little retro vibe.
Yeah, you're good at that.
Yeah.
Will Sommers.
4 out of 10.
Okay.
Will Sommers is here. It's Wednesday. It is time for Will's Wednesday Week in Review, fastest 2 minutes style.
All right. Let's start with some NBA. We had a lot of games going on with the long break over the weekend. Let's do Knicks-Pacers first. The Knicks hosted the Pacers for Game 2 on Friday, where Pascal Siak Campbell's chicken noodle soup was stirring the pot and absolutely cooking the Knicks with 39 points. Jalen Brunn's sunscreen was sunburning the Pacers as he had 36 points. But with the game on the line, his game-tying shot looked like me, as it was short. And the Pacers would prevail 114-109 over the Knicks to take a 2-0 series lead. Game 3 went back to Indianapolis on Sunday, where Karl Melo Anthony Towns looked like Hoodie Melo in his prime as he had 24 points to go along with 15 rebounds to lead the Knicks to a huge Game 3 win. And then last night, with a 2-1 series lead, the Pacers hosted the Knicks for Game 4, where Tyrese Halliburton was just too heavy for the Knicks defense as he had 32 points, 15 assists, and 12 rebounds.
Did you laugh at your own joke there?
No.
Okay, just making sure.
In a 130-121 win over the Knicks to take a 3-1 lead. While the Thunder held a 2-game lead over the T-Wolves entering Saturday's contest in Minnesota, Anthony Edwards Scissorhands was slicing up the OKC defense as he had 30 points in a 143-101 blowout win over the Thunder to bring the series to 2-1. On Memorial Day, we got a Game 4 as the T-Wolves trailed 2-1 in the series to the Thunder. Shai Alexa, please turn off my TV, made the game unwatchable after attempting 14 free throws despite having 40 points in a 128-126 win for the Thunder. Going into some baseball, the Brewers have been hot recently as they've won 7 out of their last 10 games, including last night where Christian Bale Yelich swung that bat, man, to send a walk-off grand slam into the dark night as the Brewers beat the Red Sox for their third straight win as they go for the sweep as we speak. With your Mr. Irrelevant week recap, I'm Will Sommers.
Guys, that's a pretty good one. A lot of good ones in there.
A lot of details.
Christian, Bale,
Yelich swung
the bat,
man.
That's a creative one.
Mm-hmm.
A lot to follow there.
Into the dark night.
Any takeaways for you?
I mean, I think he does a good job every time. Also, just repeating his jokes to him, I don't know. It's like...
Well, it's because I imagine somebody listening to that, including me, because I just listened to it.
Yep.
So much happened in such little time that I'm sure I missed 6 things he just said. I have to listen to these 3 times to really fully grasp everything he wrote.
I don't think I have that problem.
Okay. Well, also on Wednesdays, we play One Word Wednesday. Hunter Vaughn's got a list of topics that Joshy and I reply to with one word, sometimes less, sometimes more. And that's how we play it. It's called One Word Wednesday. It's pretty self-explanatory if you ask me, right, Joshy?
Yep.
He seems checked in right now. Will, what you think Josh is amused or is he sad because
for somebody
you took the spotlight away from him?
For somebody that's never short on words, you can tell when he's not amused.
Well, I mean, that was an all-time classic, and we've had meetings about this before. When you throw to something, and before you do it, you just go, you ready? Or you want to do this? Yep. Wasted real estate. We got an hour here. Let's go.
All right, Hunter, go ahead.
All right. We start with the Brewers radio network last night. Again, Christian Bale, the Batman.
Pitch to him. Fly ball deep right. It's going to win the game. Abreu's going back and watching it sail. It's a grand slam. Oh, my goodness, Christian Yelich. He walks it off in grand fashion. The Brewers win it 5-1 in the 10th. How do you do?
Oh, I'm responding to that?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Okay. I didn't know if there was a question that followed it. Statistic would be my word here. I was shocked to learn that was Christian Yelich's first walk-off home run in his career. And I think maybe it's because I conflate with Braun, because it feels like he hit so many. Some that, in fact, Yelich was a part of as a base runner or what have you.
How many walk-off home runs did Brian Braun hit?
I haven't looked it up, but I imagine
it had to be a good number. They had that
double
stretch.
Digits.
Ooh, just
I
home
would guess
runs.
it's close to 10. Just walk-off home runs. I would guess it's quite a few.
3 career walk-off home runs.
That's it.
Yeah, I think we remember walk-offs as
Yes.
walk-off home runs.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But Yelich to never hit one and then hit a grand slam. Pretty sweet.
Yeah, I think I've used this one before, but it's back. He's pulling the ball, which is a great sign, and he's using opposite field. If he becomes a guy who's not self-Frelick and hitting bloopers and singles, and he's driving the ball to the gaps and out of the stadium, that is only going to be good things for the Brewers the rest of the season.
Next, since losing Game 1, the Edmonton Oilers have outscored the Dallas Stars 10-2 in their last 3 games.
Me. The word here is me. Here's why. You could use Strouf here if you'd also like. The teams that I root for but don't actually watch are doing very well right now. The Edmonton Oilers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Me.
I'd like to leave. That's my one word.
The Colorado Rockies are on pace to win 27 total games this year.
Sox. Better than or worse than the White Sox?
I can one-up you. Spiders. The Cleveland Spiders from, I believe, the 1930s are the only team in the history of the sport to probably be worse than this version of the Colorado Rockies. The Colorado Rockies, I believe run differential is somewhere minus 173 last I looked yesterday.
Gracious.
The next highest NL team has 100 better run differential. And then the next closest after that is the Orioles in the 90s. This is the most pathetic thing maybe we've seen in baseball since the Cleveland Spiders.
Woof. Good word.
Harambe died 9 years ago today.
Really? Wow. Sad. It's a sad situation. Still sad 9 years later.
Good.
Whoa.
Wow.
The keepers made the right move. You save the life of a child every time.
Well, I agree,
Yes.
but just a sad situation overall.
Also douchey, because the douchiest guy you ever knew held on to Harambe for about 4 years too long.
What about 9 years too long in Hunter's case?
Well, I think it's fair to bring up. It's a moment in time that is of significance. That it was a national news story.
Big one.
Yeah. So
Story of the year.
9 years later is like a hey, remember that's how it should be thought of. But there was people who still wear the Harambe shirts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And make references in common day.
Big moment in time.
Yeah.
Montana Lemonis Craig signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That name may sound familiar to Key and Peele fans, as that was one of the names used for their East-West All-Star Game skit. And there is an actual player with that name.
One, I didn't know that. I know the skit you're referencing was
Are you sure you didn't just see a Photoshop?
I'm almost positive that was real.
That makes me think.
Yeah. Now I'm concerned.
That makes me think Hunter just got by the internet.
Yeah. Did we get AI'd?
I don't know. Let me look this up.
Yes.
Did he get got?
He got.
Oh no!
Dang it. That's what I get for writing that one right before the segment started. I do have one. Well, so got, I guess is the word there.
Yeah.
One last one. This one I did not got on. The AmFam Championship Celebrity Foursome was announced. The three celebrities that will be in this will be Mia Hamm, along with Justin Herbert and Charles Woodson.
Athletes.
Stars.
It's a good foursome. And I'll be out there Friday and Sunday, which is the day I believe the celebrity foursome takes place, is Sunday, for the AmFam Championship next week. It's going to be sweet.
Yeah, I can't quite parse out Justin Herbert.
Yeah,
Maybe
what's the
he's
connection there? I didn't know he's a big golfer, I guess.
Yeah. He also famously doesn't like to talk and be on camera.
Got bad news for him when he hits the streets of Madison.
Yeah. They're going to notice him. But yeah, that's cool. Big time. It's cool to get names like that. I mean, Mia Hamm is part of some of the most famous imagery
There you go.
in Olympic sports for the United States. She's obviously not Brandi Chastain and the ripping the shirt off, but she's as associated with that, and she was like the star. Mm-hmm. And the name we all knew during that era of absolute dominance from that women's soccer team.
Charles Woodson, back in Wisconsin.
Think he's going to wear
Super Bowl
Browns
champion.
gear?
Just about to say. And now a partial owner, I believe is the term they've used.
Yeah.
For Woodson. Good to see him back. Yeah, that's a good foursome right there for the AmFam Championship, which is coming up next week at TPC Wisconsin. New course this year for the annual event.
Hold up. I don't think I actually got. I'm on the Pittsburgh Steelers website, and they literally have a press release on it.
On the fact that his name was used in the Key and Peele
Well, that they
speech?
signed him. He's a wide receiver from the University of Arizona.
No, I'm not saying you got from the signing. I'm saying he was not actually used in the Key and Peele speech.
I thought that he was used in it.
Sketch.
What did I say? Peace?
Speech.
I meant peace. Yeah, no, he wasn't. That wasn't one of them. Trust me, I've seen that video 800 times. I know the names.
Well, they did like
This
three
is-
videos.
just so you know, someone needs to now take the time to go back and watch, because trust me, from Strouf is.
I know. That's why I don't believe that Strouf's telling me I'm wrong.
Right. Yeah. No.
They did sign a receiver by that name.
Right.
He played at Colorado.
But your assertion, I've put no value into.
But hold on, think about it for a moment. The skit is what now? What year is it? 2025. So this skit is 15 years old, meaning this guy, who's I would assume 22 years old, was 7 years old. So they found a random 7-year-old.
There is a potential that they made up a name that is also
Hunter.
A real
say
name.
his name again.
Montana Lemonus Craig.
That name to me does not shock me. I've known a DiMaggio Ferguson.
I have too. Shout out to the Jets.
So, do I think that it's impossible that someone was earnestly named that and is an NFL athlete? I do not think that's impossible.
No, I believe that is his name, and has always been his name. That is that is what I'm operating. Yeah, I agree with all that. This is a real person. He actually signed with the Steelers, and that is his name. That I'm agreeing with 100%.
Right, and you're missing the point I'm making.
That Key and Peele happened to make up a name that was also the name of a real person.
They used Dan Smith.
That's totally possible.
Well, Dan Smith was the butt of the joke.
That's totally possible.
Theratix, Teratrix, or whatever. Okay, anyway, it's time now.
See? This is why you're the bad source for stuff like this.
We learn something new every day. We learn something new today. Time now for What We Learn, which is presented by our friends at Door County Distillery, locally produced, handcrafted, award-winning spirits made locally in beautiful Door County, Carlsville. Hunter and I will be up there in a couple of weeks, Friday the 13th of June. Doing a Mr. Relevant live from Door County Distillery. If you're going to be in Door County, come hang out with us. Or if you're going to Door County anytime this summer, you got to stop in, do the tours, do the tasting. It is totally worth it. Unique product there as well that you can't get anywhere else. But it's really just cool to go through, see how they do it, see how it's made, see an awesome facility. That is Door County Distillery. But if you're not heading to Door County, bring Door County to you, whether in Milwaukee, Madison, Green Bay, wherever you are. Door County Distillery is near you, whether it's the rums, the gins, the brandies, the bourbon, any of the whiskeys. Door County Distillery, it's delicious, it's affordable, it's local, it's award-winning. You can find them near you, doorcountydistillery.com to find the retailer nearest you, as well as a huge list of unique cocktail recipes. All right, we go to Will Sommers to begin What We Learned. Will, what did you learn today in terms of your vocabulary?
I learned what the word pedantic means. It's an insulting word used to describe someone who annoys others by correcting small errors.
Josh, pedantic.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I have not looked up the definition for behooves, but I also do not know that word that he used.
Benefits.
Yep.
Benefits.
That one I know.
And then there's a good saying. I know what he meant by it, but it was funny where Hunter was ranting and he said that Hunter put you in his pocket. That was good.
You never heard that before?
No, I've heard it before, but it was just good.
Also, earlier today, I said, that's the pot calling the kettle black, to which Will said, what the hell does that mean?
Seriously?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what that
I
means.
think that's an age thing there on that one.
Yeah, Will, you got to learn that one. That's a good one to have.
That one's so common.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before.
Okay. When can we have the conversation of me not being the dumbest person on the show?
A long time.
Yeah, Will's going to have to do a lot for him to overtake you.
Your body of work is un-F-wittable.
I think we have similar intelligence, but I just filter it out more.
Yeah.
That might be a fair point by Will. Yeah.
Yeah, Will knows where his weaknesses are, where you just bull through and you go, no, I got this. That's a police officer for sure. Why would they be on the cover?
You know what I didn't learn was a phrase until today was go eat bark. As Terry Bradshaw, not thrilled with the idea of Aaron Rodgers signing with his former team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, talked about doing drugs in the jungle and going to eat bark, I believe was the quote given on a radio station in Arkansas.
I think that might be a Terry original, and I think that might just be him dismissively describing the type of things Aaron Rodgers does. Do I think there's probably a bark out there that you could get high on? I almost certainly guarantee that. I don't know what it is, but there's all sorts of strange drugs and where they're gotten from and what they're used in, particularly coming from like rainforests and stuff like that. But I don't think that's a thing people commonly say.
Okay.
I think he threw that out there as like a go get lost somewhere, go do whatever.
Go eat bark.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, when I heard that, I was like, that is a terrific
It's very
insult.
funny.
It's a very good insult by Terry.
Yeah, he cooked him. He cooked him good.
Put him in his pocket,
Yeah,
one could say.
he did.
Yeah, put him in his pocket, one could say. All right, well, that will do it for us today. We're back with you Friday beginning at 12:30 Central, ESPN Madison, ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube. Of course, the all-new, brand-new ESPN Wisconsin app. You can pin us right to the top if you want. We do this 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, with the 4 of us recently. Will graduated college. He's been hanging out. So good to have a 4th member of the Mr. Relevant crew. Nice job by Hunter today. Probably the best Hunter rant in the history of the show. And he's had a few good ones.
Even
that
better
might be
than
his best yet.
Even better than the Jerry Jones post playoff loss from my car on my birthday.
Oh, I forgot about that one. That was a really good one. I think this one might top it, though. This was a fiery rant. It was impressive.
Just wish fans would be more patient.
Joshy, kind of a disappointing C- effort from you today.
You've been locked in on your phone, Josh. What's going on there?
I'm only as good as my co-host.
Hey, you have been locked in on your phone. What's going on?
I'm not that interested in having a Badgers conversation. I'm going to be flat out with you.
Great thing to say at the end of the show. We'll talk to you Friday. Peace.